Good morning. It is Mark Stewart Greenstein. I want to address Christopher Keating of the Courant and his readers, and more readers should be readers of the Courant. Okay, for 250 years, it has been the paper of record in Connecticut, responsible. Yes, I'm an advertiser in the Courant. It is a smart thing to get trusted news in print. Okay, it is far better. I don't even read Twitter. I don't read columns that purport to be the day's news on the internet, okay? It takes crafting. It makes sense to rely on a still, stable paper like the Courant. Okay, so 5 questions were asked of Oz Griebel. I will be in Oz's category. Next week, I expect there will be an announcement that I, too, have made the ballot. Should Mr. Keating or any of the Courant staff interview me, I'd like to give answers right now to the same questions that were asked of Oz. Maybe there'll be juicier questions that actually come my way. So, number 1, is a vote for you merely a protest vote, and are you a spoiler? I think spoiler is defined more as you are a weak candidate who cannot win, and you take votes away from one side. That's spoiling that more likely winner's opportunity and elevating the other side. By that definition, I'm nowhere near a spoiler. First, I can win. The independent affiliation is larger than those who affiliate Democrat and larger than those who affiliate Republican. So why haven't independents been well represented? We don't have a party with a candidate. And when we try to, there's that two-party, I call it blinders, that hopefully we're overcoming this year. People want a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth candidate, okay? We are in high-speed mode with 5 on the floor, if you will. It's a good chance for Connecticut. So I'm not spoiling any one candidate. And I don't think I'd pull from any one side either. Look, I know only from petitioning. Okay, that's how I get my anecdotal who's behind you. People who like me have come from the conservative side to the progressive side. And I'm not spoiling because there's no evil among the two big candidates, okay? This is not Clinton-Trump, okay? Ned or Bob will guide us fine. Bob's a nice guy. Democrats should not be afraid to pull the lever if he's a nice guy just because he's a Republican label, okay? Ronald Reagan served Democrats and this whole country very well with a Republican label. Republicans have a more searing, oh my God, we can't possibly pull a lever for Ned Lamont. I'm not expecting you ever will, but I don't want you to be terribly saddened if a not-so-strong Democrat takes the helm, especially if Republicans are bolstered by a good General Assembly, ones who will finally be responsible after 40 years. That's part of what I'm campaigning for. So to the extent that I have a spoiler, it's to spoil the two-party duopoly. Okay? Chris, the Republican-Democrat establishment has sold us out, and people are recognizing that. Year after year after year, it seems to get worse. Finally, here's a spoiler against those guys in favor of the many smaller candidates who might build parties that really compete down the road. I am building a small party. It's called the Americans for Minimal Government Party, AMIGO for short. So it is a party that doesn't force you to register with us, but it is going to take principled candidates like me, but 2 years from now they'll be for House seats, Senate seats, maybe congressional seats that should vie with the big R and the big D. Number 2, how can an independent win? Well, as I said, the independent has high following. We just haven't had choices that are independent. And unfortunately, within the two-party system, we tend to have choices that are just way left and way right. As you know, Republican establishment has moved further to the right. Democratic establishment has moved further to the left. Okay, the left has taken over that party, and I still am a Democrat. But I'm an increasingly embarrassed one. Embarrassed when we heel, our leaders do, to the Nancy Pelosi's and Chuck Schumer's and now the Bernie Sanders. They're socialists. They should be in a different party. And I don't mind if that party grows. The Socialist Party of America does exist. And I'd like to see Ned Lamont, if he doesn't change his stripes, to be a representative of that party. It would be more true to what the modern Democrat Party stands for. Bill Clinton, 1992, could not get nominated in my party today. That's how far we've moved in 25 years. All right, number 3. You were at less, this is for Oz, but I'm sure I'm even less than that. Less than 5% in the latest Quinnipiac poll. How will you close the gap? Gap gets closed by awareness and goodness, okay? If I can stay good in debates, which we don't know how many I will be in formally, but there will be at least 3 because a set of forums have invited all candidates, not just 2, all candidates to the Governor's Information Forums. That's Oz, that's Rod, that's me, Ned and Bob, certainly. If they don't want to come, there will be an empty seat shown. We're inviting the lieutenant governors, I believe, and lieutenant governors then can occupy 2 seats among the Democrat side, 2 seats among the Republican side. If none of the 4 of them show, well, that says something about their wanting to speak to students and parents at schools throughout Connecticut. So I'm the one who actually started these forums before I even became a candidate. I can't run them now, but I'll be on the other side of the table, and it's a good thing for Connecticut. Hopefully that will help raise people's awareness that there's a lot of good issues being spoken about by Rod, Oz, and me. They deserve to be heard. Okay, so I found number 4. It says, where is your support coming from? Mr. Keating, unfortunately, it's from South Carolina, where people who've been away now say, where were you 10 years ago? Before we had to leave Connecticut to keep up with just our bank accounts dwindling. Before we saw less and less opportunity here and more down there. Those who are still here are often saying, and this probably happens in Connecticut more than any other state, I plan to leave within the next couple of years. I've run into lots of people while petitioning that literally they were in their final month in Connecticut. The truck was getting packed. We have people who, they're just waiting for school to be done. My senior finally graduating in 2 years, and then we'll be out of here. I don't think there's any other state where that high number of people have that phenomenon of wanting to leave. Here's why I'm optimistic. Connecticut's woes are only because of government. We still have great natural resources. We have good people. We have dynamism. We have great cities in and around us. The only problem is government, but government's the easiest thing to change. So I have to say to people who are thinking about leaving, hang in there, okay? If you see me elected, give it 18 months, okay, before you make that decision to pull out of here. Now, among people who are staying, happily or not, I know there's support that comes from progressive side and conservative side. And the common thread is, we're sick of this, okay? From conservatives, we're sick of schools that don't really teach. We're sick of abusing businesses, expecting them to shoulder the load for people who don't want to work. And taxpayers for people who don't want to work, and state salary people who are working at very, very high rates of pay and pension and aren't putting in 100% or even close. They're sick of that. And when a state worker is caught doing something truly bad, not just being lazy, that's not that bad, they're not reprimanded. They still keep their jobs. They still keep their pensions. We're sick of that, say conservatives. Progressives, they're sick of a lot of things too. Chris, they're sick of a government that is unresponsive to real needs. Here's a need. Tort reform, okay? Moms who have to sign 8 different forms before school starts, permitting that, making sure of this. We need tort reform that puts responsibility on individuals, not all of society, and that allows kids to do things more, and parents to be chaperones again, and do things without fear of lawsuit. Progressives are sick of government that does not help the schools, and indeed hurts by hiring less qualified people in the name of some sort of diversity, promoting or not promoting the best people. They stick with seniority instead of merit pay, and merit would elevate some very good teachers a lot faster. My final group that I can really identify, African American moms. They're sick of our unwillingness to crack down on crime in bad neighborhoods. And if you live in Hartford or Waterbury, where you have this horrible race-based schooling, where there's some very good schools that kids can't get into because of their race, because they're black, they're leaving seats empty. They're sick of that. It shows a bollocksed up government. Judges are not helping here. It is unfair. Sheff versus O'Neill and the equivalent of Waterbury are keeping black kids down for no reason other than their race and your incompetence. They look to me, maybe, as one who can cut that Gordian knot. We have well-meaning people in all levels of government, okay? I excoriate the General Assembly, not individual members, but the system. I excoriate the judiciary, again, not individual judges, but the system. We can't do this. We're so tied to that ruling or that precedent or that DC. You need somebody who is forceful, and that ends up being me or maybe one of the other two outsiders. Oz, Rod, and I, the independents, we're the only ones who can make significant changes, okay? Democrat is too tied to unions and urban groups and promises he made. Bob might be a little less tied, but he still has made certain promises to groups. We don't have that tie, and it does mean we go to work directly for change. I'll address that final then. Are you raising money? No. Okay? I may be the first candidate for governor who turns away money. We don't want your money. I'm self-funding, not for a lot of money, but I'm at the seat at the table at any debate that Ned, Bob, Rod, Oz, I are invited to. That should be enough to raise the awareness of thoughtful people. Yes, our signs will only go so far, but media ought to go further, and I think thoughtful people are going to pull the lever for one of us if we are truly best, irrespective of an R and a D label. Now, there are a couple PACs that are somewhat interested in me. We'll see what happens when I do hit the ballot. I don't coordinate with them. I can't. But they know where I stand. For God's sakes, there's now 200 videos here. So individual citizens may be bankrolling our effort privately. That's the best kind of democracy. And I don't have to fundraise. I don't have to go to donors, and people can know that if elected, I haven't prostituted myself. There is no beholdenness to any group because I don't have a single donation coming in from you. You really want to donate to me, donate to a cause of mine. Okay, the LF Fund, we publicize it at stewartforliberty.com. It's a good thing for things the state can't do legislatively, that in 2019, whatever gets built up there gets spent on good things at your discretion with my guidance. All right, thank you again, and I hope to have more issues before people, thanks to the Courant. I'm Mark Greenstein.